This is Marvel's Rogue Savage Land #1 by Tim Seeley. And I am excited about this one. Back in the day, I was into comics when I was a little kid. I got into it, was reading a bunch of my brother's comics, and then kind of got into my own, right? I kind of read it. He had a bunch of Fantastic Four, and I was like reading that, and he had a bunch of like kind of Avengers, and I read that, and he had a bunch of just miscellaneous other stuff, and I read that. But when I started kind of going out on my own and reading my own comics, like one of the first ones that I ever read was the early 200s to 250 of X-Men, Uncanny X-Men. And one of my absolute favorite storylines is when the X-Men are so backed against the wall by the Reavers when they are in Australia. And they have no other choice but to go through the Siege Perilous because that's the only way they're going to survive. And Psylocke maybe coerced them a little bit. That was always kind of like one of those things, is like, did she kind of put that impression into their skulls to go through the Siege Perilous and kind of give up, basically, to run away and then to fight again another day? Or, was it their own volition, right? And of course, Psylocke gets put into Quayon's, God, I'm probably butchering that, body in Madripoor, and she becomes like the ninja and all that stuff. And other people go to different places, and Rogue goes to the Savage Land, and there she kind of hangs out with Magneto for a little bit, and it was always kind of like, and Kazar, and it was kind of like, that's interesting. And there was always kind of like hinted that Rogue and Magneto had some sort of like a romance going on, and but they never really kind of followed up on it, right? Well, cue Rogue Savage Land, and it picks up, right? It even says, wait, I'll find it. It even says, previously an Uncanny X-Men 247. Right there. And I absolutely love that because it's obviously it's the throwback, right? The throwback to my childhood, throwback to the time that I was like just loving the X-Men, and the X-Men were so like just special then, and since then they've died and come back and died and come back and died and come back, blah, blah, blah. But back in X-Men 247, when Jim Lee was just getting started and Mark Silvestri was just getting started and all these amazing artists were kind of just coming up, right? Like, that was such a special time. And obviously the comic and Chris Claremont just did such an amazing job with the plot. And there was always that thing, is like, what went down with Rogue and Magneto in the Savage Land? And that's what this does. And it's extremely interesting. Obviously, first issues always just kind of set the table, right? They almost never like jump right into like kind of the heavy stuff. And this does exactly that. Rogue awakens from the Siege Perilous, and she's in the Savage Land, and she's having to find her way, and she's lost her powers, and all this kind of stuff, right? And so she's battling the bad animals that are there, the dinosaurs and whatever else. Kazar makes an appearance. Magneto obviously comes about, and there's a new bad guy that we find out that's there. Lots of good stuff. The artwork is pretty good. It's interesting. I'm not going to give too much away. I don't like showing everything, just because I think that if you're interested, you should definitely go check it out and either get a digital copy or get a physical copy. I also like that Tim Seeley's doing this because I have been a big Hack Slash fan. And it was interesting to see him do something other than kind of that. And so far, it looks pretty good. The artwork is really good. It's very nicely detailed. We have lots of cool action scenes going on. I would just say, if you like that period of X-Men, the early like 225 to 250s to 260s, that where you have, kind of that whole old school, everybody has one life, they never come back kind of a thing. This is definitely kind of the throwback to that, and you will enjoy this. And I think this is going to be a pretty cool series because of it kind of tackles that same period. I would actually venture to say that I would love to see more kind of throwback stories, whether they're short term or long term. I think there are so many good stories that have yet to be told from a lot of those periods where there was some interesting stuff that happened, and we never got the full extent of what was going on. And I think that this is an example of where it would work really well. So I would say definitely check it out, especially if you were a fan of those X-Men period. Okay, bye.